overcoming fear and anxiety, gaining confidence, public speaking, better preparation and practice, the power of storytelling. All this and more. Welcome to the High Achievers Club.
Hello and welcome to our live today, talking as always about public speaking with a special theme every week, which we will come on to shortly. So whether you're going to be watching us on this live, whether you're catching up on one of the replays, absolutely fine. Comment below, add your questions. We are here to help and support you. And we will do that by responding, say, even if you've missed the live and you're watching the replay. Comment, we will address the comments during the week or indeed during our session next week. So before we get going, we have an amazing panel of experts in public speaking, presentation and pitching and performance here today. So what I'll do, I'm going to ask them to do a quick intro each, and then we will get going with today's room. So we go, Stefan, Harriet, Rob and Bill in the order which I see everybody. So first of all, Stefan, over to you.
All right, we're already running overtime by having my intro first, aren't we? All right, so I'm Stefan Bollinger or Stefan Bollinger, however you want to pronounce it. I have a background in musical theater, on stage, TV, radio, all that beautiful jazz. I retired because I got lower back pain. No, it was just time to move on to focus on family, and I picked up a camera, and I am now called a professional photographer. Nevertheless, I never let the microphone go. This is just something, once you grab it, it feels too good. And having that microphone in my hand, I will now hand it over. Look, that way. Can you? There you go. No, other way. Harriet, other way. It's mirrored. There you go. Take it.
Thank you, Stefan. Now we got it the right way around. And by the way, do go and check out Stefan's photography work. I've started following you probably a long time ago, but I've recently been seeing much more of your pictures, and they're absolutely stunning, Stefan. Gentlemen, most of you I got to say hello to backstage, but I must say, hey, Bill. Good to see you here. I didn't expect you today, so it's an absolute honor to be with you again. For those of you that I've not had the pleasure of connecting with, my name is Harriet. I'm an international speaker, speaker trainer, and fire walk instructor. And I support you to overcome fear, step into your power, and communicate, speak up with confidence. And on that note, I'm going to throw it over to the legendary Rob.
I think I'm grabbing the mic now the right way. I think. Thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Andy, for creating this space on this Thursday, as well as Stefan, Harriet, and Bill. Thrilled to be with all of you. Good friends of mine, as well as public speaking experts. My name is Rob Holman. I am just passionate about people and life. And I think when those two come together, that's where a lot of magic happens. And so today we are here to kind of wrap our arms around that magic, bring it in so we can better serve you. I've been a professional keynote speaker for over 20 years. So I'm kind of here to be a student, to learn from my fellow moderators and panel experts, but as well as offer some of my tips and strategies, failures and successes that have set me up for greater success. So with no further delay, my brother from another mother, Bill Gannon.
Oh, thank you very much, Rob. Bill Gannon here. Nice to be with you all. Didn't know if I'd make it, but the airport run was a lot less painful than I thought this morning. So here I am. Delighted to be with you, Andy, as Stefan, Harriet, Rob. Love this club. The whole goal of public speaking and the High Achievers Club is to help you be a better public speaker. And that means sometimes 1-to-1. Sometimes that means 1-to-1,000. You don't know. But we do know there are principles and just great skills that we can help you all get your arms around better. And that's why we're here. So I'm delighted to be here. I'm a 35-year sales veteran in the B2B sales space, and take that experience and spin that into a communication coaching called the Gannon Group. My belief is technology has made us more efficient communicators. It most certainly hasn't made us more effective communicators. And the only place you can do that is sitting down with other people. And now that COVID is starting to loosen its grip on the world, we're back face to face. So how are you going to handle it? that's why we're here. Andy?
That is indeed why we are here as well. So you see, we have an amazing panel here today to help and support you. For those of you I've not yet met, my name is Andy O'Sullivan. I'm a 5-time best-selling author on books on public speaking, pitching and presenting. And my mission is to help everybody to uncover their confidence so that they can find their voice, to speak up in meetings, to contribute discussions, to give presentations and achieve more success in their career. And that is what we will be helping you with as well as we go through our live here today. And what the focus is going to be is with Rob is going to be leading us today. He's going to be sharing with us how effective communication is an inside job. Yes, that is what we are going to be doing. So let's welcome Rob.
Woo!
I was going to say, please hold off your applause, but that wouldn't be appropriate because all of you are applauding. So, Andy, thank you so much. Thanks to my fellow friends. And as I referred to earlier, public speaking experts in your own right and in your own field. Here's what I want to do. I want to set the stage a little bit. Back about 15 years ago. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm from the western part of the world, the United States of America, the East Coast, from a state called Pennsylvania, right in the greater Philadelphia area of this great state of Pennsylvania. 15 years ago, I trek across the world to the eastern part. My first trip ever to the Middle East, wonderful country of Afghanistan. Now, here's why I set the stage a bit. It didn't take long when boots on the ground over there to take really a vision trip to see the extraordinary work that's going on within business, agriculture, politics, entertainment, sports. I mean, you name it. I just really want to check out because I'd heard so many amazing things about so many amazing people doing extraordinary work. Now, during my visit over there, it didn't take long for the average Afghan to ask me quite a few questions. I'm going to ask my friends here with me, the panel members, what do you think the question I got asked the most was in my initial visit over to the Middle East in the great country of Afghanistan? I'm going to start with Andy O'Sullivan. Andy, what do you think the primary question? I was asked, as you can imagine, tons of questions throughout a course of about 14 days in my visit. But what do you think the number one question was?
I mentioned the first thing they'd want to know where you're from.
Okay.
Where are you from?
All right. I'm going to suspend the answer until I listen to all of your questions and guesses here. Thank you, Andy. Stefan.
Why are you so tall?
Oh, okay. All right. How do you know how tall I am anyway? Is that
I was wondering that.
You've never seen me in person now. All right. Maybe I've made mention to it over in the last year or so in our rooms in the High Achievers Club.
If someone mentions basketball more than once, you would add a few things. Just because I talk a lot doesn't mean I don't listen at times as well. Fair enough.
I love it. Great point. Great point. Bill.
Maybe how about what brings you here?
Okay. Very insightful. I love to hang out with smart people. Y'all are too smart for me, I think. I don't know. Or some of you just rubs off on me on a very consistent basis. So,
that and can you help me shoot the three better? One of those two questions.
Everything keeps coming back to basketball. I don't know what this is. And I'm loving every aspect of it. Harriet.
No basketball references. What's America like?
Well, don't you know? Thank you, Harriet, Bill, Stefan, and Andy. Don't you know all these questions were asked in different ways, shapes, and forms? Honestly, they really were. And you can imagine the curiosity grew with every day I spent over there. Not just the curiosity people had as they were meeting with me, the curiosity I had in meeting with them. But I would say the primary question I was asked was, who are you? So I'm going to ask not just the four of you, but everyone listening and watching this right now. And I'm going to after I ask this question, I'm going to let 5 seconds go by, and I really want you to sink in. Who are you? You can imagine, I was asked that from the Western part of the world, like coming over from the Western part of the world. And to be real with you, I was like, I really didn't know how to respond. Now, what do you think the question I'm normally asked in the Western part of the world is, whether it be cocktail parties, family functions, run into a neighbor, bump into, whatever case may be. Maybe we can all say this together. You all know what the number one question I'm asked, and probably vast majority of people in the West are asked on a regular basis. Anyone want to take a guess?
What do you do?
Yeah. What do you do? So I froze, not knowing how to answer that question. Caught me off guard. Quickly, I understood that not only me, but I think many people in the world, especially in my part of the world, have a bit of an identity crisis. We get so wrapped up in what we do, the titles we have, the responsibilities we're given, that all of a sudden we can lose ourselves in the midst of all that. But what my friends quickly reminded me in Afghanistan was, no. You matter. And we really want to get to know, Rob, who you are. Ooh, that started me, as you can imagine, y'all, that started me on quite a journey of self-discovery. Now you might be thinking, Rob, okay, identity crisis, like public speaking, where's all this fit in? If you're asking that at all, you've come to the right room and the right space, because as Andy already mentioned, effective communication is an inside job. And if we want to dig deeper with that inside job, we've got to understand some things about who we are. So as we begin to open our mouth, we do it with freedom and liberation and confidence. Now, friends, would you agree, when you've experienced a speaker, when I say friends, I'm speaking to everyone out there right now, listen, but especially my friends with me and Andy, Stefan, Bill, and Harriet, would you all agree that you've experienced in your lifetime, I'm sure just not one time, but probably multiple if I had to guess, someone that was okay with the content they were sharing, meaning they had okay content, but the delivery was, what I like to say, on point. They were free to be who they are. They express with a confidence. And I mean, my goodness, let's just go around a little bit. When you've experienced a person like that, what does that do for you as the hearer, as the audience member? What does it do? Anyone, no particular order. Anyone want to chime in?
Yes. I think it creates a space of hope and inspiration. And we all have our different speakers that we've either heard, experienced, listened to on YouTube or audio, or been live with them at an event. It's always been in different environments. But for me, being in the vicinity of someone that is able to, yes, have incredible content, but deliver it in a way that impacts your heart. And we were actually mentioning a couple of names before we came on about whether or not we're bored of still hearing those names, or we enjoy still hearing those names. And funnily enough, it's relevant in this moment, because I think for me, names like Les Brown, names like Tony Robbins, yes, I follow many other speakers and enjoy many other styles, but those were the first speakers that I started listening to. And their quotes, their words gave and facilitated a space of inspiration, a space of possibility, a space of hope, a space of, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And that touched my heart. So I think even as I continuously evolve, and I know every single one of us is absolutely a student to this craft, grow till we go. And there's so many other speakers that I now learn in a different way from and still get evoked and inspired. It's those big names that kind of set that path ablaze for me to start trusting in myself and also go on both the public speaking and the personal development journey. So I think that's what they did for me, Rob.
No, that's fabulous. I appreciate that. And as much as Stefan loves the big names himself, Stefan, to build off of what Harriet has already mentioned, where does your heart go when you've been in the audience of someone that is burning with a confidence and they're burning with an enthusiasm. It doesn't mean that they're a big extrovert or even have a terribly charismatic personality, although they might. What's
For
going on
me,
in your heart and soul?
yeah, so for me, see, I see it slightly different, and that's what Harriet mentioned before, because you can look at the speaker trainers, so to speak, the speakers who talk to speakers. What fascinates me most is to listen to a politician, to a stand-up comedian, to someone who does a TED talk. These are not the teach the teacher kind of people. These are astrophysicists who talk about whatever, or the guy from NASA who talks about the next trip to whatever Venus. So what I'm just making something up here. But what they all have in common is that they speak and you don't realize that you listen to a trained speaker because they suck you in and get you with their content, but the content itself would be rather boring. So they marinate this boring cake and then put this amazing gloss on top, and you just want to bite into it and you hang on every word. And these are not the speaker trainers. These are, I just share a story with you, but they do it so well that you completely forget all the technique that they're using to deliver that message. And you can look at, uh, as I said, from politicians to stand-up comedians, to me, is a brilliant example because their timing has to be so tight to really be successful, and to be not successful in terms of moolah, but in terms of running an hour or a 1.5 hour Netflix show. Their timing is impeccable. Their delivery is impeccable. Their tonality is so rehearsed, practiced, and that is what impresses me. And very, very often, when I sit in an audience, just to really answer your question, if I sit in an audience and I notice the technique that they're using, I'm losing their content. So when it works for me is when I forget that I'm listening to a speaker. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. Well, I love what you and Harriet are both highlighting, because whether it's someone that's in the limelight that most people would recognize, or it's someone that may be a bit more industry specific, or a friend, a family member, whoever it is, but there is something about it, regardless of their status, whether they are in the public or not as much. There's something that when someone is themselves, when someone shares out of the depth of who they are, you can't help but give them their undivided attention. In other words, we're on the edge of our seats. They keep us coming back for more. We start to get what they have. There you go. We start to grab a hold. We start to apprehend not just even their content. It goes deeper than that. Bill, would you say it even goes deeper than that when you've observed, and not just observed, when you've experienced someone like that? What's going on in your heart and mind?
Well, I think about the coaching for youth that I do. And there's a group that I work with here in New Orleans called Son of a Saint. And I might have shared this story with you at some point over the last year before, but it's a group devoted with involving the New Orleans Saints. And what they do is a son of a former player who lost his father, the player, at an early age, was taken in by a lot of the other Saints players. And he was so moved by the fact that they did that, he formed this organization called Son of a Saint. And what that means is, for fatherless boys, they bring the Saint community together and they help educate these kids, and they help train them in all kinds of things, getting them through high school, beyond, sometimes just giving them the stability of a very unstable place. So each year they hold a gala, and not surprising, that's a big black tie affair. They get ESPN speakers to come in. It's a big deal. One of the highlights of that gala is the film. They do about a 10-minute film, and naturally it's very emotional and so on. And the whole idea after that film is to get out your checkbooks, right? but they have a young man who is one of the cohort of Son of a Saint at that time give the introduction to the film. It's about a 3-minute talk at most. And Sonny Lee asked, he's the executive director, he asked me to come in and work with the kids to help them get ready for that speech. So one year I have a young man named Quentin, and Sonny tells me, you're going to love Quentin. He's smart. He's energetic. He's already a good speaker. He's ready to go. And I'm like, great. Can't wait to meet him. And I meet him, and sure enough, great young kid, energetic, positive, looks me in the eye. He's ready to go. He's already starting his spiel with me. Oh, Mr. Gannon, I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm big, Son of a Saint fan, and I'm ready to go. I'm listening. And he goes, on my speech, I know what I want to say. And I hear him list about 5 things that he wants to go on about. And I realize this kid has enthusiasm, but we haven't found the core yet. I'm not sure if he's guarding the core and he doesn't want to expose the core, or whether he just wants to be impressive, right? So I listen to him for a little bit, and I sit him down and I say, Quentin, let's forget the speech for a few minutes. So, I said, he's a black kid. I'm an old white guy. And I say, I'm an old white guy who's new to town. I don't know anything about Son of a Saint. Why does this organization even matter? What happened next was this young man, 14, 15, his eyes totally shifted from Mr. Promotion, Mr. I'm ready to go, into a completely other state. And he stopped a minute and he said, I guess, Mr. Gannon, what I'd say is Son of a Saint takes you from one of the darkest places in your life and brings you into a place of light.
Yeah.
I'm like, I said, Quentin, we've got our line. Okay. We know where this speech is going now. And now I want you to give me the reasons why that happens. So we reconstructed it. The reason for that overly long story is that Harriet says this all the time. You've got to get out of your head and come into your heart. What I did was I found the road to this guy's heart, right? I let him speak from his heart for 2 seconds, and he was a different Quentin, a different dude. And I'm like, great. Now that we found him, now let's get that totally solid message now run through the Quentin filter. Let's not get too razzle dazzle up there. Let's go to that heart place. And boy, I'll tell you, did the group, the crowd came up, clapped, the whole thing when he hit the line. And I'm just in the sideline, of course, going, yes,
yeah.
He nailed the line, So I think that is a super long description of saying, when I hear somebody come out of their heart, when I hear that trueness, I'm connecting. And that can be astrophysics. It can be living in a deaf household. It can be anything. But when it comes from here, all of a sudden, you've got me. I'm yours. Take me where you want to go. That's
Bill,
it.
I love that. And we applaud you, and we thank you for making your shorter story longer, because I think you're able to really fill in some gaps, and it's very heartfelt. And so here you had in Quentin, you had the former, he was effective. You'd heard it from other people. You'd heard it yourself, everything like that. But it was a bit more from the outside, like this outside trying to get in. And so many public speakers, so many communicators, that's their starting place. That's their place until someone like you, a friend, a faithful friend, a colleague, a peer, a coach, a mentor, call it whatever you want, comes alongside to help say, but yeah, you're really good, but you could be even more effective. And by the asking of a specific question, in your case, the way that you articulated it, all of a sudden, it opened him up to this whole world of possibilities of something called communication from the inside, only to work itself out. Andy O'Sullivan, as a 5-time best-selling author in the area of public speaking, the founder of the High Achievers Club, you've had your fair share of experiencing different people on a one-to-one basis listening to people in small group, larger group settings, you being a part of and a keynote speaker in small and large group settings as well. As you're hearing Bill's story, where do you go with that?
This is why it's so important to know really understand from inside what our message is. I mean, too often the people I work with, they focus too much on the technical side. They want to have this beautiful speech, this wonderful presentation, and they want to learn it. They want to perfect it. This is what the people I work with generally want to do. They've got this. Here's the content. Let me give it to you. And they're focused very much on the mechanics. They're focused on the outside part of that. They forget that what we're actually doing is talking to people. And when we're talking to people, we want to create that connection with them. And that's what I said to people, that, you know, even if you could give the world best, perfectly delivered presentation, but that's not what we want. We want to really connect with people in some way, because that's where we can have an influence, we can have a change, we can support them, help them, guide them, whatever it is that we are talking on. And we do that by having those connections. The best speakers I've seen are those who just came across as though they were chatting to a friend. They were talking to you. Even if there was 1,000 people in the room, they were talking to you, not delivering this beautiful slide, this beautiful gestures. And that's, I think, is where we want to be. Get to that level that it is a conversation, just a conversation of one to many. People, when they're starting out, think that the only way to get to give a good presentation is to be perfect, but then you're not connecting. So the advice of my summary would be, you know, what we want to do is get to that point that we can just be out there talking to one person, to one friend, and being us. And that's where we really create that connection. Exactly as Bill was saying in that story, that's where you can have that impact. That's where you can have these wow moments. And I always find that when I'm talking to clients, that they often forget that part of it. Sometimes they feel it's unprofessional to share personal things, unprofessional to be open, to share how you felt, how you did it, what you've experienced. And we can hide behind statistics and facts and figures, because that makes us look professional. But actually, when we move that away and push that aside, that's where the magic happens. That's where we create the success. And that ultimately, Rob, is where people, I think, have then received value from actually listening to us, and they leave with something.
Yeah, thank you. And spot on, Andy, because I think when we communicate out of that inside place, the way that you're talking about, the chance, the opportunity for impact goes up drastically. I mean, it becomes, because we're connecting. There's that word, everyone, connection. We now are connecting with people heart to heart. So Harry, next question for you. In just a few minutes, I'm actually going to share some things, actually 5 questions to ask that are going to help you embrace your unique identity and communicate from within. So I'm going to share 5 practical questions that you can ask, begin to reflect on, so it'll help you in the area of communicating from the inside out. Before that, Harriet, oftentimes the high achievers club rooms on a weekly basis and other avenues and other channels,
your unique identity.
it could be 1 or 2 people that oftentimes will bring up and say, Harriet, she's the one that helps people go from their head to their heart. Harriet, what's one practical thing that you would offer people listening, watching today to help them go from their head to their heart so they can really and truly begin communicating from the inside out? What would you say?
One thing, hey. I think, first of all, it's important to share. It's finding a practice or a habit or a mini routine before you speak that works for you. For some people, it's listening to loud music. It might be bouncing on a trampoline. It might be sitting calmly and meditating, etc., etc. So there's many different habits and practices that we can develop as speakers that work for us as individuals to support ourselves being in a calmer state, because that's what it's about, being able to calm your mind and drop down into your heart. But I think the one I talk about the most, and I feel it's something that is biologically demonstrated, we all, every single one of us has access to it. Can you guess what I'm going to say, guys? We can all use it at any moment, and it demonstrates being able to calm our parasympathetic nervous system. Your breath. Being able to take that long, deep breath in, holding it and breathing out again. And again, everybody has kind of different times or amount of seconds that the ratio should be. Again, it's finding what works for you, but long, deep breaths. And just a little bit of a bonus, if it helps and if that's okay, Rob, while you're taking those long, deep breaths, it was said earlier, connect to your why. Focus on your why. Instead of thinking, oh, what could go wrong? Or I forgot to say this, or when am I going to say that line? Or, oh my goodness, I'm going blank. Or what are they going to think? Or all of these, questions or insecurities, doubts, worries that can roll around in our mind. When you come out of your head and into your heart, as powerful as our mind is, it cannot process both positive and negative at the same time. So when you take those long, deep breaths and you focus on the why are you there? How do you want to serve? What is the benefit? How do you help the listener? When you pour your focus into that side with those long, deep breaths, you're much more likely to connect with that passion and speak from your heart. Hope that helps, Rob. Back to you.
Oh, does it ever help? It doesn't just help everyone else that's listening. It's helping me. Are you kidding? There's one word that jumps out to me as I'm listening to you, and it's presence. Like when I think of breath, you're in the moment. Perhaps you'd be listening to your own heartbeat in the midst of that. If nothing else, you're breathing in, you're breathing out. You're being present. You're being in the moment. And so much comes in and out of that place. So thank you, Harry. Andy, we're coming right back to you, my brother. So what's one practical thing that you have found that helps you and helps other people in communicating from the inside out?
To me, when I go to events, whenever I feel I'm going internal, which I think we can all do at times when we're worried about being ourselves. To me, it's very much connecting with people at events. I like to always talk to people. I find that raises my energy. I find it makes me more present, and it takes me away from any issues because sometimes, you go to events, things happen, life happens, the AV is not working, things have happened, you might be a bit stressed about getting there. But I find by talking to people, by connecting with people, that is what just raises my energy totally. And you just connect with people, and then you're getting to know people. And even just by doing that, first of all, that I think is a huge step, and that always works for me. And of course, sometimes it even gives me new material. It lets me, when I'm talking, maybe I can connect how I was speaking to Rob earlier, and Rob shared this. I can bring in content. I can make my talks more present, more fresh as well, and ensure that I'm serving people. So for me, the one thing is to make sure I'm really connecting with people. I'm not in my head. I am speaking from the inside. I'm really there, is to be out there talking, connecting, and raising my energy and their energy, Rob.
Andy, I appreciate what you're sharing because it's so easy, even in light of this conversation, we're talking about me, I'm embracing my unique identity. How do I best do that? But yet in the midst of that, you said, by connecting with people, you can better serve them. And sometimes we actually need to embrace who we are only to get over ourselves, to find out that life isn't actually about us. It's about faithfully, not just communicating, but serving those within our sphere of influence. So thank you for highlighting that. Stefan, how about a practical thing that you would offer everyone?
Yeah, I don't know what you guys talking about, serving and everything like that. Of course, it's about us, isn't it? That's the reason why we have the microphone, right?
It's
That's the
always
reason
about you, Stefan. It's always about you.
Hey, isn't that the reason why the room is dark and the spotlight is on us? Isn't that the reason why we're going on to this journey? Because we need those 30 seconds of fame. Unfortunately, 30 seconds of fame, they disappear rather quickly. And then what's after this? And what's after this is, if it's not about the spotlight or the 30 seconds of fame, it's the feedback from people that you actually helped in whatever form it is. So rather than having the 30-second of fame, I would rather have 30 years of feedback for something that I've created. So, but having said that, the spotlight feels good. If anyone else tells me something else, they're lying. It feels good to be in front of people. It feels good to share your message. And it feels amazing to get applause. But that's not why we're doing it. But whoever takes that away is lying. Let's just be honest. Now, in my case, I use a complete mix of things. I use a lot of techniques, which I will share some of them next week, which are clearly manipulating the audience. Whoa, did he just say that? He cannot say that. That's not okay. Well, guess what? With our tonality, with our speed, with the pauses that we always talk, well, what do? We're guiding the audience. These are techniques that work. So for me, it's a mixture. It's finding what is important to me. I much rather have 30 years of positive feedback than 30 seconds of applause. But at the same time, I do mix this in with proper techniques in the way I deliver it, the way I phrase things, my tonality, my body language, etc. So in a way, there is some theatrics involved. And whoever says, and I just want to be brutally honest, whoever says applause doesn't feel good and we don't manipulate the audience to a certain point to bring our message across is also lying, because that is what we are doing. It is our job. If you want to build a house and you don't know how to use a hammer, you can talk about the beauty of the house as much as you want, but you still need to know how to use that bloody hammer. And so for us, we also have to use those techniques. So for me, it's a mixed bag. And I do like the applause. Thank you very much.
Stefan,
Very much.
you brutally honest? Never at
No.
all. And that's what we love and appreciate about you. Andy, I'll tell you, with Stefan, you always know a seasoned host, communicator, when he's already setting the stage for next week's show. Don't you? I mean, it's just amazing. But I do want to say this to honor Stefan. When he talks about feedback, when you talk about feedback, Stefan, you model it so well. And I'll give you a very specific example. We've been a part of the High Achievers Club for a number of months now. Shortly after I met you, being on the High Achievers Club, specifically in the clubhouse room that was a daily room not too long ago, just being in the room a few different times, you connected with me on a back channel. And you said, Rob, I really value this room. I want to reach out to you to get your feedback. What are the things that you really enjoy about what I offer? And what are the things that perhaps I need to improve on to better encourage, inspire, and help people practically in this room? And we started a conversation. I don't know if you remember this. I had like another meeting. I go, very few people ever make me late for a meeting because I like to be on point. I like to be on time. Stefan, you just made me late. That's how good and meaningful that feedback conversation was. So thank you, my friend, for modeling it so well. It's not something you just share because you think it has tremendous value. You live it. So the value's off the charts. Appreciate it. Bill, we're not going to leave you out. We want you to round us out as it relates to one practical thing that you have found that helps you lead, communicate from the inside out, or something you've experienced from other people.
So, Rob, I think in listening to everything, I'll make this one metaphor. I think when we're learning to speak, we're creating a straight line road. And on that road, and this is experienced speakers and beginners, we know we want to get our intro. We know we want to get the middle. We know we want to get the end. And if we're not terribly experienced yet, we're burning every, engine on that goal. Don't get in the way. If you have a question, I'll take it at the end, but I got to get from point A to point B, right? That's my obligation. I've got the mic, as Stefan said. There's a wonderful moment in your speaking journey where this line vectors off with a question from the audience, or you invite a question from the audience in the middle of your speech. and you begin to moderate and facilitate for a period of time instead of present. And when that happens for me, I feel like I'm at my 10 right there. When I hear someone say something and it's relevant and going to be a good topic, I'll let this conversation vector there and I'll let everybody start to work on it. And meanwhile, the speaker pro in me will know how to bring it back to that timeline, but the engagement and the connection that happens when someone in the audience asks a question that you not only answer, but you allow the room to like participate in that person's question, lifts that person up. It lifts the audience up into another level of attention. Like, wow, this speaker is actually saying that question is worth all of us discussing. And what is he doing right now? She's energizing. You're stirring the pot of the whole room. You're keeping everybody involved. And I like that technique to answer your question. I like vectoring, letting it engage, and then bringing it back to that timeline. And I'll vector again and again if I think it's going to be within the time frame and I can still get the job done. But I get the sense the audience and myself are all together, right? And Stefan makes a good point. You can get a little drunk in that spotlight. Hey, it's Bill Gannon, okay, for 40 minutes. Hey, right? I mean, what could be better than this, right? And if you can just shake off that false buzz, it's not a false buzz, but it's a dopamine buzz. It's just that thing. If you can get away from that and get into the look at us all learning and moving together. And Sharon, what a great question. I think everybody, George, you asked that before, and it sounds exactly like what Sharon, this is worth just taking a quick, these little sidebars, these little vector offs, to me, that's when the communication in the room is bubbling at full steam.
Yeah, Bill, and I really want to open this up to the panel now. No particular order. I'm not going to call on Stefan, then Harriet, then Andy. I mean, just chime in light of what Bill just shared. The facilitative presenter, the importance of that, what that ignites, what that does, in Andy's own words, taking it from a lecture or more of a formal presentation into having a conversation. Anyone want to just touch on that or hit from a slightly different angle or just enhance even what Bill's already shared?
I say that's one of the reasons why we don't want to learn a speech presentation verbatim. Because if we learn word for word for word for word, in addition to all that pressure of worrying about where they are, what words we got to say, we can't take those diversions. We can't deal with questions that people have, can we? Because we've got our words, we've got to stick to them. We cannot change. And that's why, to me, it's important that we want to know our content, rehearse it, be ready for it, internalize our content. And then we can be really present and deal with things. We can, somebody's got a question, we can go off, we can deal with it, we can have those discussions, we can facilitate. And ultimately, of course, that then leads us to really to serve our listeners, which is what we're there for, is to serve them, not just deliver our prepared script, Rob.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. Stefan or Harriet?
Well, always her first. She brings the energy, I bring the entertainment, she brings the good looks, I bring the old age. So it's always her first.
And you definitely always bring the humor, Stefan. It's fun being a team with you. I think I very much agree with what everybody's been saying. I guess wanted to add in for anyone that's listening or watching the replay on this, that wants to bring that into part of their speeches and presentations straight away. Perhaps you feel really anxious about it at the moment. And I would say, I don't know if you other wonderful mods agree, give a thumbs up or nod your heads if you do. I would say that that's something that really evolves over time. I remember at the beginning, I was absolutely petrified of questions. And it doesn't mean that everybody is, but I was so scared of questions, especially if it was during the presentation. And like Andy was saying, it's because I so in my head had this script and this set presentation that I needed to deliver. But of course, the more competent and confident I became in delivering that message, the more experience I gained from doing it, of course, the more relaxed I became. And with that experience, I was then able to be much more open to questions, facilitate different conversations. And as Bill said, for me, it's along with stories, but perhaps even more so, it's one of the best ways to connect with your audience and truly allow them to have an experience during your presentation and therefore probably receive more impact or benefit from what it is that you are sharing. So big fan of it, but I would say keep practicing, keep getting more experience, and you'll start to naturally find yourself bringing that into your presentations. Back to you, Rob.
See, I'll tell you, Bill, you had to bring up this facilitation. I mean, it's just sparking great conversation. I mean, Stefan, I know we want to go to you next. I mean, doesn't it just, as I'm listening to Harriet, when you have that facilitative kind of way because you've adequately prepared, that begins to liberate you in the moment because you know where you're starting out, you kind of know where you're heading, and you know how you're going to land the plane. And in the midst of that, I can't help but think like it just puts you as well as the audience and every audience member at ease, doesn't it? When you have more of a conversation as opposed to this formal lecture. Do you agree?
Well, there's two reasons why people are in this room, right? Number one is to listen, and number two is to share. Now, you can say, I'm the one that shares, and everybody else is listening. It's a pretty one-way street. The chance that the listener at some point is getting bored because they don't feel involved in any way, unless you I don't know, we all know when Bill comes on stage, he starts with a really bad dad joke, then he makes a reference about the 1960s movie, and then he sings Living on the Prayer. But not everybody can do that. So I honestly believe that my content is so deep part of me that I absolutely love when the audience reacts, because it's the only way for me also to sort of get the feelers out. Am I on the right track in terms of speed, in terms of my energy? Sometimes I have to stop myself a little bit. Sometimes I have to give it that extra bit. And I need to somehow find, if you want to be analytical, I somehow have to find some data points. Am I on the right track? I can only do so by getting the audience involved. And so now it's not a one-side thing anymore. It's no longer that I am the speaker and they're the listeners. No, now we have formed some kind of connection. And once that connection is there, the rest flows. But I can only do so because I do know exactly what I want to talk about. I know also that if I miss a part, the presentation will still be received well. I guess it really very much depends also on the time of a presentation. I have to throw that caveat in, because if I speak for 50 minutes, it's a very different story than if I speak in sort of a TED 14 minutes mark, because I need to nail it and I need to make sure that I get my content across and everything. So it really depends on the format. But if it's a free format, I will ask a question before I make my open statement. And you will see that next week. Thank you very much. See, there you go. I had to do it. I just had to do it. I had to do it.
It's just who you are. I mean, but we just keep coming full circle in this conversation about embrace who you are. Stefan, you have done that and more today. You have demonstrated, you've reflected of what that is all about. Bill, I've got to bring you back in before I bring this very practically to an official close this morning, as I unveil my 5 key questions of helping people embrace their identity and communicate more from the inside out. But I can't help but bring you back in because Stefan had mentioned you and Living on a Prayer. Is that something that you want to sing, that Bon Jovi song, Living on a Prayer, take my hand and we make it, I swear? I mean, do you want to go down that road or not?
No.
Okay. Yeah, a quick comment. If it's not a song, but a quick comment in light of everyone kind of chiming in on you facilitating the presentation, the importance of that to kind of come full circle because you kind of ignited that wonderful, deep conversation.
I will go ahead and tell you that Stefan is spot on about my references to, if not 60s movies, movies in general. I, for some reason, have pulled so many vignettes out of my head from movies that are communication gems. And naturally, you know, screenwriters know a thing or two about dialogue. Hello, you know, there's your Captain Obvious for the morning. But some of those speeches, some of those monologues, and some of the exchanges that happen in movies are just stunning. And they are fantastic models of wonderful communication. And I just dropped this blog yesterday about this Academy Award winning movie, Coda, that I put on every one of your have to watch list if you haven't yet. The initials stand for Children of Deaf Adults. And it's a marvelous story, but in it are so many sub characters and so many fantastic examples of wonderful communication. And again, I know screenwriters can set it up to whatever they want it, but we can extract so many great lessons from those. There are so many great questions, thoughtful questions. And what I love about oftentimes cinematic stuff is that they're not afraid of space. They ask a question and it troubles the responder and they wait and they think, and you can feel that in an audience. If we can feel that through a movie, then imagine what we do when it's face to face. Imagine what happens in the room if you give that person's question thought, or if you ask a question with thought and it makes them plumb for some depths, right? And then don't be afraid of watching them think about it. I mean, to me, that is just where the magic happens. And I cannot celebrate stepping on the throat of COVID enough and hoping to throw it overboard and never see it again to have us back in rooms. You're probably all feeling this in your daily lives. When we get back in rooms now, people are popping. They are ready to go. What if we can pop with a little more, technique now and a little more thoughtfulness? This is what I've been doing for the last 2 years. You can't wait to hear it. What about this? Man, how has the last 2 years treated you? And really tune in, right? We're going to hear stuff and it's going to make communication, and in your public speaking, to bring it home, these are questions that audience people will resonate with. They will. Just take the time to ask and then make sure you're listening like a bat, and you're going to have a wonderful room. It just is going to happen.
Bill, it's gold what you're giving us, as well as I want to let you, no, not you, Bill, but you, each person listening right now, watching, that everything Andy, Stefan, Harriet, and Bill have shared practically to help you lead and communicate more from the inside out has been a gift. Things like just breathe, understand your why, connect with people. Understand it's not as much about you as it is about people and faithfully serving them. Feedback is invaluable, so you could be a better steward of yourself and from those around you. And then lastly, what would it look like if you begin to go from more of a lecture and a formal presentation into an active, facilitative presenter? So that's a gift that these experts have given you today. But I have one more gift I want to give to kind of end and bring this to a close. 5 key questions that you need to ask to embrace your unique identity so you can communicate more from the inside out. First question: what are your personal core values? In other words, the things deep on your heart, the deep convictions of the heart that you're actually making decisions all day long out of this deep place, but may not even fully realize it. What are your top personal core values? Second question: what would you say your top strengths are? Strengths could be identified as your natural talents ever since you were a little boy or girl. The things that when you were doing these things, they just came a little bit more at ease, perhaps a lot more at ease. And there's an abundance of positive fruit that comes in and out of this place where others are greatly impacted. What are your top strengths? Third, what are your greatest passions in life? The things that when you're engaged with them, when you're doing them, when you're active with them and in them, they bring more life to you and they bring more life to other people around you. These passion areas actually have you leaping out of bed in the morning in which to accomplish. You don't even have to push the alarm snooze button. You're up half the night because you're so excited to take part in them. Fourth, what do you believe your most influential life milestones are? The things that have happened throughout the course of your life to where in the moment or coming out of that moment, you know you would never, ever, ever be the same. It could be of tremendous challenge or of the greatest blessing. Maybe it's the birth of your first child. Perhaps it's your parents' divorce or the premature death of a loved one. But you've never been the same. These things have helped shape you to become the person you are today, listening to this passionate lover of life and people. And the fifth and final question: what is your primary gift in life? In other words, if the world were to squeeze you, what would come out in a good way above all other things? So when you're no longer here on this earth anymore, it's a legacy you leave behind that leaves a ripple impact, transformational impact upon the world to reach future generations. I'd say if you reflect on these 5 questions, you're on point and you're on journey to discover or rediscover not only your personal purpose, but who you are that leads into your personal purpose. And as a natural result, confidence deep within begins to arise. And the hearers of your message get what you have. Thank you so much. I'm handing it now back to you, Andy O'Sullivan.
Whoa, thank you. Oh, what an amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's so enthusiastic. I'm really cheering. Amazing. I hope you have written down those 5 questions. If not, you'll have to rewind and listen again. And Harry definitely has got them all down. So brilliant tips shared there. Oh, and Stefan too. And Bill's having a cup of tea. Anyway.
Is this what we're getting from going to Afghanistan? I mean, holy smokes. You started with, oh, I went to Afghanistan. They asked me a few questions. An hour later, he is rewriting the book of, by the way, pitching not allowed in this room. But that aside, like I would still have one question though. Why did you go to Afghanistan? You started the story, but you never answered that one question that we all wanted to know. Sorry, Andy, if I jump in, but Rob, why?
Well, I'm just modeling it for everyone that you want to keep people on the edge of their seat and you got to keep them coming back for more.
All right. Smart. Ooh, he's not just a pretty face, is he? He's good.
Maybe next week we find out.
You'll have to hang tight, everyone. That could be another time together. But Stefan, I will whet your appetite even a little bit more by saying this. There was humanitarian work going on in the great country of Afghanistan. And I had heard of both Afghan and people of the East teaming up with people of the West to serve people so faithfully and so well. And I had to lay my physical eyes on that work, and more importantly, the people who were doing it. And I will say this, coming out of my experience in Afghanistan, it is a beautiful country. Some of the most beautiful people I've ever met that gave me the gift of hospitality, and I will never, ever be the same.
That's what I was hoping to hear from you, and I'm so glad you did. Sorry, Andy, for interrupting, but I just needed to hear that. I had that feeling that it would go in that direction, and I'm also grateful that you shared that, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, great interruption to have. Try and close that loop. So thank you to Rob. I'm going to stop here. Yeah, we're just going to get one final thought from each of our amazing panel. Why they're doing that? Why they're sharing a short thought? Note the word short there, Stefan. Why they're sharing that short thought? I'd love you to be checking them out, checking out their profiles, and seeing how they can support and help you as well. So we'll do reverse order. We're going to go Bill, then Harriet, then Stefan, then Rob. So start with you, Bill.
Thanks, Andy. This has been so great. Rob, thanks for a fantastic moderation this morning. This has been my morning, Stefan's evening, y'all UK's afternoon. My final thought is, that little I just gave you. You know, we make a big deal about filler words, and that's a whole other session, whole other seminar, because we get taught that ahs and ums and all that are deadly, and how do you kill them and so on. And I think of them a little bit more like salt and pepper. And if you do them, if it's natural and it's in your heart and they just come out that way, a little seasoning never hurts the food. No big surprise, using too much of them wrecks the food. So don't be terrified of filler words. Just try to keep them under control. Harriet?
Harriet, you're mute.
I'm too excited. Thank you, of course, Bill, Stefan, Andy, Rob. I think I'm quickly becoming your number one cheerleader. Always in awe of your facilitation, your moderation, your speaking, and the value that you give. So thank you for an incredible session. I think along the lines of what we've been speaking about today, the inside job, my biggest tip is do the inner work. Spend time behind closed doors. For every speaker, it's not what you're doing on stage or online. It's what you're doing outside of that space. Do the inner work, and it will naturally show up externally for you as well. Thank you for a wonderful room. Have a great day, everybody. And over to Stefan.
Wow, thank you. All right, I'll try to keep it short. For anyone that is listening, I'm not sure if it comes through as much, but I hope it does. For everybody that can see us, I think it is crystal clear. You have 5 completely different people on this stage. Completely different. We have the Captain Obvious. He called himself that, Bill, right? We have Harriet, who always brings so much fire. She doesn't just have to let people walk over fire, she brings it. Then we have Andy, who always manages to take something that sounds complex and breaks it down to such a mere mortal understandable level. And then we have Rob. Well, yeah, and then we have Rob. And so
Be nice, be nice. We are bringing this to a close.
Very nice, very nice. I will be very nice. Okay. So and then yeah, it's me. I'm a little bit of a loud mouth and a little bit out there. But what that shows you is that you can have your personal stamp on your presentation, no matter. I sometimes talk about serious things, sometimes about entertaining things, but the one common denominator is me. And I think that's what Rob tried to explain. And I think this room, these 5 people, they are the prime example for exactly that. Once you find what makes you you, That will make your presentation. The content is gravy. I hope that helps. Rob?
Oh,
Amazing
that
job.
helped. That helped. I was starting to sweat, not knowing where you were going to go with me, but that definitely helped. To emphasize what Stefan said, really, my closing thought is this, and it's very similar to what he just shared. Be you, for the world is waiting. Andy, off to you.
Beautifully put. So thank you, Rob, Stefan, Harriet, and Bill for sharing all that knowledge and experience. And what a wonderful session it has been today. Thank you for giving up some of your time to join us, whether you're with us live or on the replays. Do feel free to comment. We are always delighted to hear from you, and we will address them, say, either during the week or indeed in next week's live, when we are back again at exactly the same time next Thursday. And as you may have heard him mention, Stefan will be leading a very special session. He doesn't like to talk about it, but he will be doing that for us. So until we meet again, enjoy the day, enjoy your week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I can't wait.